Welcome to the MRX Influencers podcast, where you come for the insights, but stay for the good times. I'm Dan Fleetwood, and on this podcast, I chat with the best and brightest minds in the research space. On this episode, we have a guest host, Dan Jackson, who leads QuestionPro's Canadian business. He talks with Sean Copeland, CEO of Goodfind Toys. Sean is a research pro and now business owner focusing on the niche market of toy collection. So I hope you enjoy this conversation between Dan and Sean.
Oh, hey!
How you doing?
I'm so good. And wow, not a Dan I was expecting.
It's a totally different Dan. It's Dan Jackson. Same place of work, but different surname.
So same place of work, same name, different face.
That's right. And last name.
I love that. It's true. I did know you were coming because we did do all the marketing around it.
Right.
How's your day going?
Oh, it's going really good, really busy. Lots of things to do, lots of meetings.
Where is the other Dan?
Boston.
There you go.
He's somewhere in Western Texas, I think, in his Winnebago traveling the state. I think he's as far as I know, he's in the forest somewhere. I hope he's tuning in on his cell phone if he has reception. Just a quick overview of the agenda. So what we'll do today is I have someone on from Canada. So it's going to be a person that I've kind of went through the industry with. His name's Sean Copeland. He started off similarly to me. So from studying it at school, making his way through, but he has an interesting sort of new development where he started his own business, and there's some insight from his research that he can share and how he's used some of the skills and his keen eye for the new endeavor. And then I'm going to do a few data points. Canadian
those data points.
They are cool, and I'm going to share them today and anything that else that comes along because it's pretty off the cuff, and that's why we all tune in.
Yeah. So tell me about what you've been up to, though, DJ. You are now our director of Canada?
Managing director of Canada, and big responsibility, big opportunity. I've been here since November of 2020.
Okay.
And there's lots of traction and lots of marketing buzz up here, and it's amazing. So we have big clients. We have City of Vancouver, City of Calgary. We have government clients like Prince Edward Island. So lots of good opportunities here, and I'm loving it. Okay, I want to get right to it. I want to introduce an old colleague of mine, and it's great to kick back up our conversations. And I'm going to introduce Sean, and I'll pull him in now. How you doing, Sean?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
Yeah, doing amazing. Hosting the show. Looking forward to talking to you. Crystal's doing good, I assume.
Oh, yeah, I'm great.
Just hanging out.
Couldn't be better.
Yeah. So how you doing, Sean? Everything good? I think you're not far from me. You're in London, Ontario. So that's probably like 100 kilometers southwest.
Yeah. It's a good 2-hour drive. Yeah.
2 hours.
There we go. I was like, I don't know what kilometers are. You got to put it in. I don't know what that means. I'll just nod my head.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I guess we can get right into it. I want to ask you a few questions, and I think we could just, talk, candidly about anything. Feel free to just share your opinions. But I wanted to really dig down. I think we had a similar, how we got into the industry, how we navigated it. Tell me a little bit about, your journey in research and how you ended up at Goodfind.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I thought I was going to be a famous movie director back when I was a teenager, and clearly that didn't work out. But back in the day when I thought I wanted to be a famous movie director, I went to school to be just that. So I actually went to school for film production and worked in that field for a couple of years. Quickly realized it just, I didn't have the passion for it that other people did. And I came across the research analyst program at Georgian College. And yeah, that's the one that you went to as well, right, Dan?
That's right. A question.
Wait, were you guys like class buddies, like friends in college?
No, we were enemies.
Yeah.
No, we were in the same cohort.
So I can't remember, what year did you graduate? Was it
2013?
Okay, yeah, I was 2009. So I think I came and spoke to your class, possibly.
Aw, so much wiser. No, I'm kidding.
But yeah, that's where my career started. I fell in love with research. I've always loved business. I grew up in an entrepreneurial household. My dad was always running companies, starting new companies, building stuff. And it's really exciting working in research. Anyone who does realizes really quickly, you get to talk to some of the best business leaders across the country, across the world. You get to talk to executives when you're just starting out. You get to be that person sharing the insights from data, trying to help them, move the company forward. And I found it really exciting. And yeah, so I worked for a lot of different companies over the years, some big ones, Ipsos, a lot of people know about.
Literally everyone's worked for Ipsos.
Yeah. It means he knows a lot.
And then what'd you do after that?
I worked at a lot of other places, Environics Research. I've worked for Loyalty One, who's sort of the Air Miles program. Everybody in Canada knows that, but I think in the US, it's a little bit more of a secret. And, moved around, started getting more into, I would say, big data sets, different types of data sets. Started to realize there was a lot of power in combining this traditional survey data with behavioral data and other kinds of consumer profiles and, third-party data and second-party data. So I started working a lot more with developers and people on the tech side. Nice. And then recently, my last role was actually really exciting. We got to build our own data product, our own sort of SaaS solution. And so that was a lot of fun as well.
Was that at the, I think you mentioned to me before, it was the marijuana place that you worked at? Yeah,
so it was called Lift & Co. And we were Canada's largest cannabis events company.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we had about 25,000 or so people come to our events from across Canada. A lot of people came up from the US. Really great events that we held. But we also had a reviews platform so people could go in and tell us how they felt about different products that were on the market. So there's tons and tons of data for us to use. And that's really why I joined 2 years ago.
Yeah. And I got to ask, what was the catering like for that? Were there a lot of hungry people at those events?
We tended to under order on the cookies for sure. Yeah.
Or over order. No, yeah, under order. Tend to, yeah. My next question would be around sort of your new venture. I know you were always a researcher, you went through the industry, but then you kind of took a wholly different turn, and it's Goodfind Toys. And I just want to know a little bit more, how you got started. Was it always a love of, that, collectibles and toys? Just tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've always had a bit of a fondness towards e-commerce. When I was 12, I got my first Beanie Baby. And it was my
He's
little
admitting
sister.
It live on a live show, guys.
That's
He's not ashamed.
It's good.
My first of many. And so it was my little sister. She got me this Beanie Baby for Christmas, and I was like, oh, thanks. It's kind of cute. She's 6 years younger than me. It was cute of her to do it. But at the same time, eBay was really taking off. And so I was trying to get her something for Christmas. And I don't know if you guys remember Furbies.
Yes.
Oh, I remember them.
Awesome.
Sorry, that was my first.
So they were selling for $20,000 to $30,000 on eBay. And I was just as a 12-year-old, I was like, how is this possible? Why is this happening? And so I started talking to my dad, and he's like, well, supply and demand. And I was like, oh, interesting concept. And so I started buying a whole bunch of Beanie Babies bulk. So, I'd buy 50 to 100 at a time from people just trying to clear them out. And then I would take my own photos and I would upload them onto eBay and, pretend I was him essentially, because you can't do that stuff as a 12-year-old. And I did that for years. So I, moved on to electronics and computers and all kinds of stuff throughout college. And it was always sort of a thing on the side. But I always had a soft spot for toys, for sure. And I think that's probably what led me to build Goodfind Toys. The last company I was working with got hit really hard by COVID. like any events company would. So unfortunately, that company doesn't exist anymore, but it did offer a great opportunity for me to reflect. And I looked around and said, I think I want to turn this into more of a full-time business, a full-time thing. And I can't say my wife loved the idea at first. We have a 9-year-old kid and, we had a home together and, sort of depended on those incomes and that lifestyle. But after a few cold drinks, sitting on the patio, thinking about life and reflecting, we packed our stuff up, sold our place in Toronto, moved to London, bought some space here for me to warehouse all the toys. And that's what we did last August. And since then, it's become my full-time gig.
That's amazing.
Awesome.
That's so amazing. I know we talked a bit before, specifically about the, the target audience and the demographics that use your site, because it varies now with millennials, buying a lot of these things, and which typically used to be younger people. How do you, how did you manage to, properly sell to them or properly market to them, being so wide of a demographic? Yeah.
So one thing I noticed early on when I was doing some market research for my business is that there were all these subreddits. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Reddit or use it at all, hopefully. But when you get into these subreddits, like they're very niche topics, right? So there was a subreddit about Skylanders, which I'm assuming you haven't heard of. There was a subreddit.
I have heard of it. I have nephews. And isn't it like
my brother game with a lot of these things?
Yeah.
He's 9 years older than me, and avid collector. You go in his room, and it's just full of everything that was on your site. And that was another interesting point. But please go on.
I'm gonna have to talk to him then. So I noticed that there were all these subreddits, and there were also Facebook groups. Like, one of the Facebook groups I came across was G.I. Joe Collectors of Canada. And I was like, that's pretty specific. So I started joining these groups and doing a bit of ethnography and realized that a lot of the pain points that they were talking about existed way back when I was 12 years old and eBay started. Things around shipping and like, how do you package an item and find an item and all this kind of stuff. And I realized really quickly that there's still a huge opportunity in this space because the retailers that serve them really weren't built around collectors. And collectors can be anybody. Everybody has that ability to be a collector. And I think when we think about collectors, we immediately think about those people who collect, 300 Star Wars action figures and have a room dedicated to it. But that's not every collector.
Right.
That's awesome.
And individual stores, right? And they don't cater to that wide breadth that you're talking about. So for instance, I think you were talking earlier about, that store may cater to that person with all those toys and everything. But if someone's looking for a specific type, that's pretty hard to find, right? Very specific thing, right?
Yeah. So a collector typically, they're going to be wondering, is there a scratch on the package? Does the package have any compression damage? Is the figure or is the collectible painted well? Or does it look cross-eyed? Or, they're very, very particular in what they're looking for. And that's not the way that a Toys R Us was built or, a Walmart, right? You're not going to, if you walk into a Walmart and be like, can you help me find the one that has just a little bit of extra red paint on the face? And I want to make sure that it doesn't have any dust on it as well. Like, they're going to look at you and be like, just kidding. No, it's a really interesting place to be in, for sure.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And, in side story, I ordered one off your website last week. So for my brother, it was a Back to the Future. I don't know if we could say it. A Back to the Future board game. And he called me last night. No word of a lie. He called me last night. He's like, wow, I got to play this with, he has a son and a wife. So they were playing together. So I think it's a cool idea. And so many different people are into that stuff. I was going to ask you, do you ever see research coming into play? I know you have like a creative background with the movie ideas, or do you have the research career? Do you ever see kind of implementing any of those into your new venture?
Yeah, and really, right now I'm working with small data. and, you know, a lot of stuff that people would consider qualitative. And, you know, I had already mentioned the ethnographies, but things like customer reviews are huge. And people tend to just look at those reviews and go, well, you know, that person was angry because they didn't get their item quick enough. So what? Or, you know, that person was upset because, you know, the item came with a slight crease in it. Well, we can't do any better. Who cares? But things like reviews, I'm spending a lot of time going through and combing through those things to figure out how can I improve my operations. So even if I don't agree with it right away, someone experienced it, and there's got to be some way that I can improve my business so that that doesn't happen to someone in the future. And same with sales data, right? So surprisingly, one of my best sellers is plush Care Bears. And people just love those Care Bears. But I wouldn't know if I didn't have that sales data. Like that just...
Yeah. Wait, you didn't think that was going to be your number one seller when you started the company?
Oh my goodness, great.
It's the nostalgia, man. Nostalgia.
It is.
That's right. And the little I know about chatbots, it'd be hard to program one for yours. It's so, the questions become so specific, right? It'd be
so that's a big struggle that a lot of these businesses have. When you think of the traditional kind of comic book store is what most people think about when they think about collectibles. I'm kind of the anti-comic book store. You know, I carry Peppa Pig. I carry Care Bears. I carry My Little Ponies. I have Barbies, but everything has to have an element of, you know, collectability. And, you know, when I started this business, I knew I wanted it to be different. I knew the issues that people were facing, but as I get more and more data, I definitely start to realize that there's just so much I can do here. And absolutely, even if traditional survey research isn't something that I'm going to do right away, it is something that I'm going to have to do. And I have that opportunity.
Do you think that the film degree or the market research experience has helped you more in your entrepreneurial journey?
I would say really it is the market research. Because honestly, over the years, the more consumer research you do, the more you realize that there are people that do certain things certain ways, and there is some predictability to people. And yeah, I would say, you know, you get to that point where you're like, I kind of understand why these certain stereotypes exist. Because you're like, the survey just keeps telling me the same thing. I think one of the best surveys I ever did was for Playtex. And they were trying to figure out people's different like sexual preferences at the time, because they had this new like clean wipe thing. Anyway, so in BC, it was like everyone was wild in comparison to the rest of Canada. And then everybody in Manitoba and Alberta, like Saskatchewan, all over there were like very, very conservative compared to everybody else in Canada. And Dan's looking at me. He's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, America. So the center of the country. So a parallel would be kind of the Midwest, and probably like BC would be California-esque, maybe
exactly
a little more bohemian, and then Toronto's kind of like New York.
Yeah.
Okay. You're like, the data is showing us what everybody knows, but they know it because it exists. It's like chicken and the egg kind of.
Exactly. Yeah. And the more years you spend in research, the more you just start to collect that kind of information. And yeah, it's been so helpful just to understand people and marketing, and being able to work with so many awesome people on the marketing side in big businesses has really, really helped me understand how to build my own business.
I love that. We actually got a question from the audience.
Nice.
Oh, there it is.
Do you want me to ask?
What's an unexpected issue you ran into?
So yeah, it looks like Timothy had never heard of compression damage before. So companies like Walmart, let's say, when an item is ordered by somebody, they more or less treat it the same as any item that's been ordered. They have someone that picks that in the warehouse, they pick it off the shelf, they put it into a box. Usually that box is picked automatically by a computer based on the size of the item. And then they seal up the box, they put a label on it, and they send it on its way. So compression damage is when that item has been packed that way, but the packaging of like a toy, so if you take like this toy, for example, it's got a cardboard backer.
Right.
So if it gets pushed around a lot, then this cardboard backer can crease.
Okay.
Or if somebody chucks the shipping box, which happens a lot, or steps on the shipping box, which actually happens surprisingly a lot, especially crossing borders, then compression damage is just when that gets crushed down.
Oh.
So it's actually fairly common in the collector space. You know, they talk about buying from Target, Walmart, all those big places, and always complaining that their items show up damaged.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, you could imagine, right? And their specific needs are to have it very much perfect, right? If they're collecting it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's not about the toy that's inside the package on its own. It's the package as well. But I would say from an unexpected perspective, you know, for me, that was fairly expected as a collector myself. You know, that's something I was aware of. But something that was unexpected was just the amount of communication that some collectors want. So I run an online store. You know, it's completely online. I do have a phone number people can call, an email that they can send emails to, but I'll often get a phone call from someone saying, you know, asking all kinds of questions about something. And then they'll send me an email and they'll say, hey, can you take additional photos from 8 different angles of this particular item? And then they'll go to the store and they'll buy the item. So that was something I didn't really expect, that kind of customer support pre-sale. And it's something that I have to think about, you know, how am I going to scale this, right? Because I can't spend every day on the phone answering emails, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Awesome.
for sure.
Well, yeah, you know, it's a fascinating topic, you know, especially for me and having a brother that's really close to this. I always wanted to know, you know, where it's coming from and talk to the distributors themselves. So it's great that, you know, you're using your market research toolkit and your creative toolkit on your new endeavor. It's great to talk to you today, and we're going to move on to the next segment, but it was great to see you again. I'm going to follow up with you later and
see you guys.
Talk soon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Awesome.
That was so great.
That's cool.
I know, so many fun
so
facts,
cool.
Man.
Toys are cool, right? Well,
They are. Everybody loves a good toy.
Do you have any Beanie Babies?
No. But one of my brothers is a collector. They collect Funko Pops. They like have the big heads. Right? Yeah. I collect coffee cups, but I use them to drink out of. I probably have like 35 coffee cups and I live by myself. So, you know, that's my, oh yeah, probably more. Yeah. As I get a coffee cup from every city I go to, or like if we go to Disney World, I have like coffee cups from every park. And I also despise dishes. So
I have this gigantic one. It's like,
there you go.
I basically put half a pot in because I'm like addicted to caffeine, but I'm trying to cut down. I run on.
Okay. So you said you had some data points.
I got some data points. I got some Canadian specific data points. Let's have a
Canada specific.
peek at this.
Wait, so can market research prove that Canadians are nice, or is that just like an overall general?
Oh,
is it a misnomer or is it true?
It's known. It's just like intuitive. Like you just know it, right? There's no research needed. It's like we know. Okay, so let me see here. Share my screen.
You got it? There we go.
So we got some really groundbreaking data here. And we are going to, so first we asked, so this is from our QuestionPro instant answers. So we asked about 150 responses. You're able to answer one question. It comes back in real time. And want to see, because the big stereotype at QuestionPro is like everybody's playing hockey. There's polar bears playing hockey in the streets, you know, typical stuff. And just typical, right? So this actually shows that from the 150 responses, 85% like hockey. So I'm going to go to the next one. Now, when asked, should healthcare similar to ours, which is, I mean, that's a topic for discussion for another day, but their assumption, should they be afforded the same level of healthcare that we do so 90%. So more than hockey lovers, they want Americans to get some health care. So that's a pretty interesting.
Aww, that's so nice.
Right? But I got a next one that's, it's a little bit controversial, but I thought I'd throw it in. If you were a hot dog, would you eat yourself? Now, I'm dying to know this. And I got the chart wrong. You like that, eh? So as you see, it's 72%, actually 72% would say yes and 28% no. But as you can see, just use your imagination there.
Just switch them around. But really some people really like hot dogs, man.
Yeah, that's what I couldn't imagine, but there you go.
I love that. And those are Canada specific using instant answers. So fun.
Instant answers. And it's from Tim Cornelius, Tim Cash Cornelius. He set that up for me. So big thanks to Tim. But let's talk about next week. Dan Fleetwood will be back. So a smoother process. The main Dan, the boss. I'm going to
the boss man.
The boss man. He's coming back. And it'll be great. And it's good to have him back. I hope I helped out and hope I did an okay job. And thanks a lot, Crystal, for taking it on with me. And
of course.
Moving on.
Yeah. Have an awesome week, and we'll be back next week.
Thanks so much for listening to the MRX Influencers podcast. If you want more information about QuestionPro, go to QuestionPro.com. If you want to follow me, feel free to do so on LinkedIn or Twitter. Until next time, we'll see you later.